Alright, so if you have been on the internet and have been keeping up with the versus scene in the last week or so, you may have noticed that there is a certain matchup that is happening in the Death Battle season this year that a lot of people have been kind of talking about. And before I continue, I just wanted to say sorry that this didn't come out sooner. Thanksgiving week, not a lot you can do. But I'm here now, and I'm here to talk about the next episode of Death Battle. And sorry also for those who were looking forward to my Rick vs. the Doctor review. I just decided not going to be able to do that between this and also Thanksgiving break. I wouldn't be able to get them both done on time. But anyway, let's talk about Goku vs. Superman the third time. Now I say Goku vs. Superman 3 as a joke, but apparently it has been confirmed by Ben Singer, one of the creators and one of the writers for Death Battle, that this is not Goku vs. Superman 3. This is Goku vs. Superman, I guess, remastered, more in line with Mario vs. Sonic and Link vs. Cloud, like those episodes that got remastered, which I think is better than just doing Goku vs. Superman 3, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So this reveal of the next episode has led to a lot of discussion online of what they're going to do with this episode, if it was a good idea to do this episode at all, what they're going to do, like a lot of things and a lot of questions that are floating around. And I figured that this is an interesting enough talking point for me to kind of make a whole dedicated video about it leading up to the episode's reveal. I know I made that whole trailer on it last week, and I was really excited to make that trailer because I was really proud of it. But anyway, so there's a lot of discussion about this episode, and I'm just gonna say I was not expecting Goku vs. Superman this season. Like, I think if you were to give me a list of matchups to pick from, of what would be the episode before the finale, I wouldn't even have considered Goku vs. Superman 3. Especially with the two remaining symbols on the cipher wheel, which I believe is the recycling symbol and the suit. And I was not expecting Goku vs. Superman for any of that. Because I think Goku vs. Superman coming back, well, for one, I think Goku and Superman, respectively, returning to Death Battle was something that everyone knew was going to happen. It was inevitable. Whether it be against each other or against, I don't know, like Jin Mori or Optimus Prime, respectively. We all knew it was going to happen. Goku and Superman are such popular characters, and they've done so much more stuff since their last debut on this series with Goku vs. Superman 2, that I think both of them returning was something that we all knew what was coming. We just didn't know when or how. And if you were to ask me if I would rather Goku vs. Superman a third time versus either Goku vs. Jin Mori or Superman vs. Optimus Prime, I probably would have chosen Goku vs. Mori and Superman vs. Optimus, because I think those episodes have a lot more to offer in terms of Goku and Superman's respective, just how they are as individuals, compared to just them doing an episode we've already seen 2 separate times already. But I'm going to put that aside because the episode's already happening. There's not really much we can do about it now. Episode's happening. Let's just kind of move on from that. Though I will say one last thing. I will take Goku vs. Superman 3. I'd take Goku vs. Superman 4 over Goku vs. Sonic the Hedgehog any day of the week. I know some people like Goku vs. Sonic. That's totally fine. In my opinion, though, that matchup rather, is absolute trash. Anyways, that's all about the matchup itself. Let's kind of move on to the details, the nitty-gritty of it. Goku vs. Superman being revisited or remastered or being done a third time is something that I always kind of knew was going to happen eventually, just because of the long-lasting legacy of this matchup, both in and out of the Death Battle scene, and just the amount of stuff that Goku and Superman have gotten up to since Goku vs. Superman 2. But I always thought it was going to be done at the last season of the series, like season whatever they decide to end on. It would have been done like the episode before the finale or something like that. I didn't think they'd do it this season, let alone like the next 3. Because, I don't know, I guess it always just felt too soon, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but, with the running thing with the Death Battle curse and every time they do something with a specific franchise, something new comes out and then stirs a whole bunch of controversy. It happened last time with both Goku vs. Superman 1 and 2, because right after Goku vs. Superman 1 came out, Battle of Gods came out, and then right after they did Goku vs. Superman 2, Dragon Ball Super started. So, you know, I guess if they ever wanted to do it, it was hard to kind of find a time, because Dragon Ball is always getting new stuff being put out. There's always, like, new content. Goku's always getting new forms and whatever. But I think they picked a really good time to do it, because, like, you know, the manga has been focused on Dragon Ball Superhero for the longest time, and it's not like the anime has been up to anything recently. And, you know, the last animated thing that Dragon Ball got announced was Dragon Ball Daima, and, you know, me personally speaking, I don't feel like Dragon Ball Daima is going to be a huge determining factor in if Goku and Superman, or if Goku's going to beat Superman. But that's just me. Y'all can say what you want, but that's my personal opinion. But yeah, I think that they picked a pretty good time to do this episode in terms of, like, the release schedule of both franchises. I mean, Superman's always going to get new stuff, and Superman's always going to continue doing adventures because they're comics, and comic characters never die or move on or do anything. And I think having it be the episode before the finale it makes sense, but it's also really risky, because Goku vs. Superman is, like, the matchup. I think it's, in my opinion, it's up there with matchups that have been around since, like, the dawn of time, like Mario vs. Sonic, you know, Cole vs. Alex, I guess. Just stuff like that, matchups that have been around for a really long time. It's like the epitome of a legacy matchup. But I think doing it the episode before the finale has a risk of overshadowing the finale, unless this finale is, like, this finale has to be something big, equally as big, as to not, like, get overshadowed by Goku vs. Superman. And I think, hopefully they know that. I feel like they would know that, but that was one of the concerns that I had when I started thinking about this matchup after the original hype of, or I guess surprise of, the episode initially came out. In terms of how I think it's going to go, I think it's going to be, I actually have no idea, because the original Goku vs. Superman 1 was, like, this really long-winded, like, I think it's still one of the longest episodes in the show's history, about, like, not just going over these characters, not just going over the broad strokes. It was a documentary, almost, of just going over the entire character's history bit by bit, and just, like, going through their journeys in a really detailed and fun way. And Goku vs. Superman 2 was more of a documentary setting of, like, the history of the matchup, which I think was really interesting, even though that episode has its quirks. So yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with this episode, because they could go either way. They could go for, like, the long-winded, like, history of the characters, which I think they're gonna do. I think it's gonna be more in line with just a regular old breakdown, because it's not Goku vs. Superman 3, it's just Goku vs. Superman remastered. And I think when you look at it through that lens, they're probably just gonna do it like a regular episode. They'll probably have a bit more of a spectacle behind it, because it is Goku vs. Superman. And according to one of Ben's tweets, I don't pay attention to Twitter, I learned this from the wiki, apparently it's gonna go over some composite related stuff, like Super Dragon Ball Heroes, and a newer comic run of DC called DC Infinite Paradox, I think it was. I don't know, DC Infinite something, where it's apparently its own composited universe, where, like, every version of every character is canon and composited into one being, which I have some thoughts about that just from that description, but we're gonna run with it for now. I'm gonna research it literally after I'm done recording this. So I think there's a lot of new stuff to learn as well, in terms of the rundown and what they're gonna cover, because Goku has had so many adventures since Dragon Ball Super, or Resurrection F, because they haven't even covered, like, the Goku Black stuff. Like, they cut off right before Dragon Ball Super started, so even stuff like Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken hasn't even been covered in the Death Battle Sphere. They've covered Dragon Ball Super since then, like in the Vegeta rundown, the Frieza rundown, all that stuff. And it's just kind of interesting to see what they're going to do with it, because they have not only all the stuff from Dragon Ball Super to cover, they have all the stuff from the manga, they have all the stuff from the Broly movie, and even some minor stuff from Dragon Ball Super Superhero. So I think there's a lot to cover in terms of like Goku, and Superman's been doing adventures since like forever and has probably had so many adventures since then. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about, including he has his own counter to Goku's like avatar state. He has his own like avatar state. I don't know the details of it. I just saw this one comic panel of it and I thought that was cool. So I think there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff to cover in terms of, I think more specifically on Superman's side, because everyone knows what Goku's been up to, but I feel like comics, specifically Superman, are a bit more niche in terms of the general like superhero consuming group. The more diehard fans will definitely know about it, but in terms of like the general public zeitgeist, a lot of people probably aren't going to know a lot about like Superman's latest adventures. I don't even know about Superman's latest adventures, and I love Superman. But yeah, that's kind of what they're going to do with the rundown, probably, in my opinion. Another thing that I think is probably what everyone's thinking about, and that's the verdict and how the fight's going to go. Because while I'm sure the actual fight animation is going to be spectacular, and I'm sure it's going to be amazing, the verdict is what really has me stumped. Because I feel like everyone who's aware of the matchup is just going to say, oh, Superman, and all the salty Dragon Ball fans are going to say, oh, Goku wins. That could go either way. The thing is, I don't know who's going to win. Because they're obviously going to give Superman limits and say he's not limitless, which is stupid, and they know it's stupid. So Superman's not going to be like this unlimited, limitless god that, you know, Goku vs. Superman 2 portrayed him. But I don't know what they're going to do, honestly. Because I feel like when you give Goku and Superman feats from Dragon Ball Heroes and whatever this DC Infinite Paradox or whatever it was, I'm not sure. Because I feel like narratively, it makes the most sense for Goku to win. Because I feel like Superman winning 3 times in a row is kind of lame, right? Like, from a narrative perspective and from just, like, watching this episode 3 times in a row, it's kind of like the SpongeBob meme, like, how many times we gotta teach you this lesson, old man? But it just feels so obvious that Superman's going to win. Even without those, like, stupid limitless, like, Superman claims. Superman is still pretty strong. And I feel like he's still going to win. But I feel like narratively it makes sense for Goku to win, and I feel like there are some arguments you could make for him, like with the Mafuba and whatnot. But, like, I just don't know. And regardless of who wins, I feel like people are going to be mad. Because if Goku loses, the Dragon Ball fans are going to lose their minds. They're going to get mad, they're going to claim bias, they're going to do all that crap that we know them for. But if Superman wins, I still feel like they're going to be mad. Because, you know, Dragon Ball has been on a bit of a losing streak since, I can't remember the last time they won a matchup, actually. Well, Friezatron. But before that, they hadn't really, it was Broly versus Hulk. Broly versus Hulk was the last episode they won. And ever since then, they've been kind of on a bit of a losing streak until Friezatron rolled around. Because, you know, Vegeta lost to Thor, Trunks lost to Silver, which I'm kind of like, I don't know. But in terms of, like, the track record, I feel like people are going to be upset if Goku wins anyway, because if Goku beats Superman, people are going to be like, oh, why didn't Vegeta beat Thor if Goku beat Superman? Like, that doesn't add up, right? So I feel like either way, Death Battle's going to catch some heat from, like, salty fanboys, and obviously Superman fanboys are probably going to lose their minds if Goku wins as well, but I feel like either way they're going to lose on that, and they probably know that, and they probably don't care. They just want to, like, do the episode, and I feel like when you make a series like Death Battle, you know that regardless of who wins, people are going to be mad. Regardless of how much research you do, no matter how much you try to, like, no matter how convincing your argument is, there are always going to be people that are going to be so diehard and just so, like, butthurt that they're just not going to care, and they're going to claim bias, they're going to claim, like, they fixed it, whatever. That's always going to happen. And that's never not going to happen. Until the series ends, or until the heat death of the universe, there are always going to be people that are mad at a verdict, no matter what kind of research is put into it. And I feel like they know that, and I feel like they don't care, and they're probably just going to do the episode how they see fit. In terms of my guess of who's going to win, I would be fine with either winning. I kind of want to see Goku win, because Goku, poor guy, has gone through the ringer. Goku vs. Superman 2 did him so dirty, so I'd like to see, if he doesn't win, I'd like to at least see justice served. to him, because boy howdy did Goku vs. Superman 2 not treat him well. And I feel like they knew that. I was doing some research on this episode before recording this, and you know, Ben did like a series of tweets saying like, we're gonna do justice this time. It was from him and one of the editors. They were like, yeah, we're gonna do this episode justice this time, because I feel like Goku vs. Superman 2 has its reputation at this point, and they even know that themselves, because I think an hour after, not even an hour after the announcement went live, they changed the titles of the previous two versions of this episode, the original classic and the irrelevant sequel, respectively. And I guess the irrelevant sequel for Goku vs. Superman 2 makes sense, but it's kind of unfortunate that, because the fight's so cool. I will always stand by that. The fight for Goku vs. Superman 2 is really cool. But the episode itself, in terms of how they handle both characters, is really bad. And has led to the episode's really bad reputation over the last few years, ever since kind of like the original hype of it died down. Because it really does just spit in the face of Goku and hype up Superman to an ungodly degree, and a degree that he's just not at. And it's so bad that even most of the crew behind Death Battle have grown a distaste for this episode and kind of regret its existence. And, you know, Ben and DJ were talking about like, hey, you know, when we're doing this, you know, Superman's not going to be limitless, and we're actually going to like do our due diligence. We're going to like treat this fight the way it should be treated, not hyping up Superman to a degree that he's just not. And I think that's a really good way to handle it. That's the only way it should be handled. So, you know, I'm glad about that. In terms of what I want from the fight, I'm not really sure, because we don't know how the fight's going to start. We don't know if it's going to start as like a continuation or going off the back of Goku vs. Superman 2, like it's the same Goku and Superman that fought in the last two episodes, or if it's going to be like a complete fresh slate, like completely different Goku vs. Superman, whatever. If it is, I'm going under the assumption that it is the original Goku vs. Superman that fought in the last two episodes. I want, you know, I would like for the original two voice actors, Masako and some ordinary guy. No, that's not his name. The guy who voiced Superman in Goku vs. Superman 1 and 2, whatever his name is. I forgot it. Sad. Sorry. I want Superman to be the one to revive Goku. And I want, you know, Superman to revive Goku and then just kind of like give each other like a little smile and just be like, one last time, and then the fight starts. And in terms of choreography stuff, there's a lot you can do. I feel like a lot of it might be like repeats of what the last two episodes do, and it's probably just gonna be a lot of like flying around, punching, whatever. And I want, you know, what I do want is I want their new abilities to be highlighted. Because I know, you know, Goku has a lot of new forms, he has a lot of new techniques. He has like Kaioken, Ultra Instinct again, and Ultra Instinct Mastered, and a whole bunch of other stuff. He has a lot of techniques. Superman has his Kaiju form or whatever it's called, I forgot. And I want them to make use of that. I want there to be a Kaiju fight. I want there to be a life-sized Avatar state battle between the Goku vs. Superman fight. That seems ridiculous if you were to say that, hey, in Goku vs. Superman 2, you ask someone from like 2018, you go up to them, you say, hey, Death Battle's gonna do Goku vs. Superman 3, and it's gonna end in a big kaiju fight between them. They're gonna say, that's stupid. And you're right, it is stupid, but it's gonna happen, and it's gonna be awesome. In terms of what else, that's really about it, kinda. I don't really go into episodes, or just matchups in general, like, having these high expectations of what I want to see in the fight. Like, when I picture my most wanted episode, Percy Jackson versus Harry Potter, I don't have this detailed layout of how I want the fight to go, how I want it to start, what I want the choreography to look like. I just trust people that have better visions for this kind of stuff than I do to handle that, because I'm not a fight choreographer, I'm not an animator or a storyboarder. I don't know what goes into that and what kind of stuff would be cool and what wouldn't be cool. I can recognize when stuff looks cool to my tastes, but I can't really kind of imagine that myself, if that makes sense. But my biggest fear with this episode is that not only are people gonna get mad, not only is it gonna feel kind of weird that they're doing this episode again, especially when Goku and Superman have other options that people would like to see more than just doing it against each other again. My biggest fear with this episode is that it's not gonna live up to the hype. Because regardless of how they want to put this episode, if it's like, it's a remastered, it's not like a threequel to the previous two episodes, it's a complete remaster, Mario vs. Sonic, Link vs. Cloud style, whatever. Regardless of how they want to frame it, people are going to compare it to the previous two episodes. And I feel like, regardless, it's going to be better than Goku vs. Superman 2. I feel like everyone knows that, and I feel like I know that. But the thing is, like, Goku vs. Superman 1 is considered by a lot of people to be one of Death Battle's greatest episodes still, regardless of how old it is. It is considered to be one of their best episodes, their magnum opus, whatever. And when you're doing a follow-up to that, claiming you're going to be doing this episode right, people are naturally going to compare it to the original. And I'm just worried that people are going to go into this episode with really high expectations and be let down. And even with like moderate expectations and still be let down. My thoughts on that are I just hope the episode's good. It doesn't have to be a magnum opus. And it doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't have to do any of that. I just want it to be a good episode. I know Dragon Ball has a pretty good track record of good episodes. It has probably the best lineup of episodes that any franchise has, in my opinion. But, when you're obviously making a third installment of one of the most infamous matchups, let alone one of the most infamous legacies on your series, there's obviously going to be a lot of expectation and hype around it, and just a lot of, putting it on a pedestal, whatever. So I just hope that, for Death Battle's sake, they don't want to drop the ball this time. And I feel like they know that they have to land this, because, especially with the reputation of the second one, they know that, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, So, I feel like there's a lot of hype and expectation writing on this, and I just hope that they do a good job with it, is all. With any episode, right? That's really about all I really wanted to say. I know this was kind of a bit more of a rambling video. I didn't even have a script going into this. I just kind of going off the cuff. But I had a lot of thoughts floating around about this episode, and I feel like it'd be a bit more interesting to talk about this than an episode that happened that involved two characters I don't really know a lot about and don't really care about talking about. The episode was good. I meant to say this at the beginning, but if anyone was wondering about my opinion on Rick versus the Doctor, I really liked it. I thought it was a great episode. Probably 8 or 9 out of 10. Probably closer to 8. But yeah, that was my insane ramblings of Goku vs. Superman 3. I guess we'll just have to see how this episode turns out. I hope it's good. I think it's going to be good. I know some people are cautiously optimistic about it. Some people are a bit angry that it's happening, especially so soon. Sooner than we expected anyway. It's not really like soon, as in like Goku vs. Superman 2 happened recently. It didn't. It happened forever ago. But I feel like people were just expecting it, like I said before, people were expecting it to come out way later, like in the twilight years of the show's run. But I guess it makes sense, because, it's the 10th season. I always kind of figured that they were going to do something big for their 10th season. I feel like doing it for their 10th season makes sense. But yeah, that was my insane ramblings about Goku vs. Superman 2. Let me know what you think about Goku vs. Superman 2. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Would you have rather Goku fight Jin Mori? Would you rather have Superman fight Optimus Prime? What would you have preferred them do if you wanted them to do something different? And if you're excited for this episode, who do you think who's gonna win? Who do you think it's gonna go for? Whatever, I'm dragging this out. Thank you all so much for listening. This wasn't really a very visually stimulating thing. You guys could probably just put this on while you eat lunch or something. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Check out some of my non-Death Battle videos. I look forward to seeing Goku vs. Superman on December 4th. And I'll catch y'all later.